All right. Hello, Patriots. Welcome to the Ryan Samuel Show. Listen, we got a really good show today. There is a ton of stuff going on. Donald Trump has come out as at the Bible Museum to discuss issues like prayer in school. Now, the United States has a long history of issues with prayer in schools, particularly a bunch of Supreme Court cases. There is some discrepancies of whether or not it is okay for students to pray in school or if it just restricts the government from mandating prayer in school. It's a very simple question. And the answer is that it restricts the government from mandating prayer in school. But good luck explaining that to some of these liberals. Let's take a look here. This is Pam Bondi today. Let's listen to what she has to say.
Thank you. And thank you, Lieutenant Governor Patrick. Our founders believed every individual has the right to worship freely without fear of their own government. No one knows this better than President Trump. Under his leadership, we have dropped FACE cases against pro-life Christians, stopped the FBI from spying on Catholics, launched multiple investigations into anti-Semitism in schools, and we are aggressively prosecuting vicious crimes against Jewish Americans. President Trump is fighting each day for our parents, our students, and every American's right to live out their faith. There is no greater defender of the First Amendment than the president, and there is no greater president than Donald Trump. We all thank President Trump for protecting the God-given rights of every American, and it is my great honor to introduce to you the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
Basically, that was just her introduction to um, Donald Trump. Now, the notion is that in the United States there is serious um, there's serious discrimination against Christians. Part of that is definitely true, but the issue of prayer in school and government prayer, it goes back to before we were even a nation. Back in the 17th and 18th centuries. So back in between 1642 and 1647, there was a prohibition of Catholic settlers. The Virginia colony passed a law in 1642 explicitly banning Catholic immigrants from entering the territory, reflecting fears of papal influence. Similarly, the Massachusetts Bay Colony enacted a comparable statute in 1647, making it illegal for Catholics to settle there. These laws were enforced by colonial governments to maintain Protestant dominance. Maryland's shift to anti-Catholic policies in 1654 and 1692. Originally founded as a Catholic refuge, Maryland's Act of Toleration in 1649 was repealed in 1654, amid Puritan control. The Protestants were persecuted in the 1600s and 1700s. Colonial governments in places like Massachusetts and Virginia fined, imprisoned, or whipped Baptist Quakers for refusing to attend established Anglican or congregational churches for pacifist beliefs. After the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War, the problem still persists. You know, a lot of this was against Catholics. Catholics were very scary. They still are today to a lot of people. I don't understand why. Um, but religious texts excluding Catholics in the 1780s. In 1788, New York statesman John Jay proposed legislation requiring public office holders to renounce allegiance to the Pope in both in civil matters, effectively barring Catholics and some Anglicans from government roles. The Missouri Mormons were expelled in 1838 amid rising tensions over Mormon voting blocks and property disputes. Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs issued Executive Order 44 on October 27, 1838, declaring Mormons must be exterminated or driven from the state. The Anti-Bigamy Act, passed by Congress during the Civil War, this federal law criminalized polygamy, which was a religious practice of Mormons back in the day. The Edmunds Act in 1882 and Edmunds-Tucker Act in 1887. These congressional acts further persecuted Mormons by outlawing unlawful cohabitation, disenfranchising women and polygamists, and dissolving the LDS Church and corporations seizing its assets. The Oregon Compulsory Education Act of 1922. Driven by the Ku Klux Klan and anti-Catholic sentiment, Oregon voters approved the law requiring all children to attend public schools, effectively closing Catholic parochial schools. The U.S. Supreme Court struck it down in Pierce v. Society of Sisters, 1925, as violating parental rights, but it represented state law government hostility towards Catholic education. A lot of this is towards Catholics. But religious persecution has been around in the United States since the 1600s, regardless, even after independence. And a lot of it was Christians on Christians. The ban on school-sponsored prayer in 1962 in Engel v. Vitale. The Supreme Court ruled 6-1 that the New York public school policy of reciting a state-composed prayer violated the Establishment Clause, prohibiting government-sponsored prayer in schools. This was seen by critics as removing Christian traditions from education. Ban on Bible readings in schools, 1963. Abington School District Verschamp declared unconstitutional Pennsylvania and Baltimore laws requiring daily Bible readings and Lord's Prayer recitation in public schools further limited overt Christian practices and government-funded education. I mean, even in the 2020s, "Hey, cat, welcome on." And as recently as in the 2000s, well, the U.S. Supreme Court has held that individual voluntary student prayer is protected under the First Amendment, as affirmed in cases like Tinker versus Des Moines, 1969, and subsequent guidance, that public schools have overstepped by disciplining students for private or small group prayer. I mean, this is the problem that we're having, is that the United States Supreme Court has ruled that school-sponsored prayer is a problem because the government should not be establishing a religion. Yes, we know that. It's the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. But you can practice religion in school as a student. If you're a student and you want to pray before lunch, um, or you wish to, if you're a Muslim student and you want to pray and kneel towards Mecca and bow and pray, that's your prerogative. But the schools aren't allowing that. What we're seeing is we're seeing school suspension. We're seeing major problems with these issues. So um, these private or small group prayer, often citing disruption or establishment clause concern, these incidents typically involve the non-destructive activity like silent prayer or small groups during lunch for free time. Below are notable examples from 2000 onwards where students faced punishment and suffered suspension. Raymond Case, 2003, Missouri. A fourth grade student at a St. Louis public elementary school was given a week's detention for bowing his head and silently praying before eating lunch in the cafeteria. The teacher viewed it as disruptive and enforced a no prayer policy during meals. The incident drew national attention from religious freedom groups like the American Family Association, who argued it violated the students' rights. The school district eventually apologized and revised its n- policy to allow silent prayer, but the initial punishment stood as an example of overreach on private devotion. Heritage High School prayer group suspensions, 2007. At Heritage High School in Vancouver, 12 students formed an early morning prayer group and met in the cafeteria after being denied a private room for schoolgirl prayer. Despite the inclement weather, the vice principal instructed them to pray outside. Chloe, Hig- Chloe Higgins' kindergarten prayer incident in 2014 in Florida. A kindergarten student at Santa Rosa County School District was told by a school lunch monitor to stop praying silently over her lunch tray, with the monitor reportedly saying, "It's not time to pray," and threatening further discipline. The child's parents, supported by the Liberty Institute, threatened a lawsuit arguing it infringed on her free exercise rights. The school district quickly investigated, apologized, and reaffirms that students can pray privately as long as it doesn't interrupt others. No formal suspension occurred, but the reprimand highlighted inconsistencies in school enforcement. Chase Winbank group prayer restriction 2014-2015. This has been a constant back and forth since the 1600s. Senior Chase Widebank and up to 90 fellow Christian students at Pine Creek High School in Colorado Springs used open time or free homeroom period on Mondays, Wednesdays, sometimes Fridays for prayer, singing hymns and religious discussions, a practice that has grown over 3 years without issue. In September 2014, an assistant principal summoned Winbank to the office and banned all religious speech during this time, citing separation of church and state while allowing non-religious groups to continue. No suspension occurred, but restriction was enforced as discipline. The Alliance Defense Freedom filed a federal lawsuit in November 2014 alleging viewpoint discrimination. The case settled in June 2015 with the district reversing the ban and allowing prayer during free periods like lunch, though eliminate. I mean, who are you to allow prayer? If my kid wants to pray, my kid's going to pray. If I want to pray, I'm going to pray. You have a right to practice religion in the United States of America. Plate County High School cafeteria prayer ban, 2015 in Wyoming. Students at Plate County High School were prohibited by the principal from privately praying together in the cafeteria during lunch. With the policy extended to all public areas to avoid concern, one student was reportedly reprimanded for leading a small group prayer after media coverage complaints from the Wyoming Family Alliance. The district reversed the ban in December 2015, clarifying that non-destructive student prayer was permitted. And if you, for the past few decades, our society has become more and more secular, which, the left has convinced themselves and their followers that secularism is a good thing. But the more secular and the further you get away from God, the more you put yourself at risk and society at risk of evils that are committed. And I'm going to explain that. We don't usually talk religion on this show, but this just happens to be the topic of the night. So, uh, if you don't believe in God, you will believe in anything. People who don't believe in God substitute God with something else, like um, gender affirming care, uh, liberal idols like AOC or, you know, Bernie Sanders. If you don't, these are people that believe that everything in the world came from nothing. And to think that everything around us came from nothing is an impossible scenario. If you don't believe in God, you will believe in anything. Think about not believing in God just so that you can believe that everything came from nothing. And you see the ones that don't believe in God, the self-proclaimed atheists, the legions of the left, they believe that a man can get pregnant. If you don't believe in God, you'll believe in anything. And although I don't support the obviously the banning of prayer in school, I don't support the government mandated prayer in school either. What I do support is I support a kid or a student at any age who wants to pray in school, and that's what Trump is saying here. He's not talking about mandated prayer for the schools. He's not talking about forced prayer. He's not talking about government school mandated prayer, although the government should not be anywhere near schools. I think we've learned our lesson with that, and hopefully, once the Department of Education is completely and utterly dissolved, hopefully we can get the government completely out of schools and go to a private charter school system. But let's listen to Trump's comments.
For most of our country's history, the Bible was found in every classroom in the nation. Yet in many schools today, students are instead indoctrinated with anti-religious propaganda, and some are even punished for their religious beliefs, and very, very strongly punished. It's ridiculous. Joining us this morning is Hannah Allen from Honey Grove, Texas. A few years ago, Hannah organized a group of her classmates to pray for an injured peer. The school principal declared that Hannah's generous act of love was prohibited from taking place in front of the other students. Didn't like it. The principal didn't like it. Can you imagine? But Hannah very strongly stood her ground, and she won. And Hannah, I just want to thank you for letting the light of your faith shine for all of those to see. We really appreciate it. And where is Hannah? Is Hannah here someplace? I think so. Hannah, stand up, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Hannah. I know what you went through. I know what you went through. It's great. Appreciate it. To support students like Hannah, I'm pleased to announce this morning that the Department of Education will soon issue new guidance protecting the right to prayer in our public schools, and it's total protection.
Good.
Thank you, Hannah. Great job. See what you did, Hannah? Who knew? Who knew that was going to happen, right? Thank you.
I mean, and Trump, listen, I know that Trump now is, I guess you could say he's definitely religious. He seems to be more religious, I would say, ever since the assassination attempt. He has become more religious. Has he always been religious? I don't think he has. You know, he grew up in Queens, New York, um, but I'm glad to see him supporting Christianity and stick up for Christians in this world because what he's saying and what he's trying to say is that modern day Christians like you and me are being persecuted, particularly with the school shooting in Minneapolis. So, and there's been a couple. On March 12th, 2005, the Living Church of God, a gunman entered during a worship service and attended by families from the church's religious education program. 7 killed, 4 injured. Terry Ratzman, 44, opened fire with a handgun during a service. Victims included students and parents from the church's youth and educational groups. No formal school building on site, but the congressional included many families with school-aged children. 2013, Sandy Hook Elementary School. Church-affiliated memorial in response, but shooting at a school included in broader context. Adam Lanza, 20. Abundant Life Christian School. This is Natalie Rupnow. Annunciation Catholic Church. So uh, things are happening. You don't shoot up a Christian school because you're pro-Christian. If you're going to choose a school, you don't choose a Christian school unless you're trying to say something. There's thousands of schools out there, and Christian schools are rare to come by compared to every other school. So the persecution of Christianity is real. I do firmly believe in my heart of hearts that God is real, Satan is real, and demons are real, and they walk this earth, and they're trying to take us down with them. Um, you know, I wasn't always religious. I had a very strong religious youth, but as I grew older and I went to college and I started reading and studying the universe, I became too smart for my own good and I became an atheist. And that went on for probably 10 years, and now I'm back to Catholicism. So, um, but what Trump is doing is he's trying to protect kids so that they can pray in school. That's a good thing. Let's watch this.
Hi, I'm Shane Cias. I've been a Christian my whole life, and Jesus means everything to me. When I was in 5th grade, my school forced me to teach my kindergarten buddy about changing his gender using a book called My Shadow is Pink. The book said you can choose your gender based on feelings instead of how God made us. I knew this was not right, but I was afraid of getting in trouble. After my family spoke up, the school treated us badly, and kids started bullying me and my brother because of our faith. And the school did nothing to stop it. It hurt a lot, but
Of
I kept
course not.
trusting God. I believe kids like me should be able to live our faith at school without being forced to go against what we believe. I hope no other family has to go through what mine did. Thank you.
Thank you, Shay. Great job. That was delivered well, wasn't it?
I mean, but that's what has eroded our school districts. So, you know, one of the big things that you get with secularism in school, and I understand we're not supposed to have an establishment of religion in school, but you're also not supposed to be you're supposed to have some level of morality. Everything in our country, our laws, our Bill of Rights, everything comes from God. We recognize that it is from God. But one of the primary concerns about secularism is its potential to weaken the moral foundations that have historically guided societies. Many religions, they provide like ethic codes such as the Ten Commandments in Christianity or like the five precepts of Buddhism that offer like clear guidelines for behavior. Codes like that have shaped laws, social norms, and personal values for centuries. In a secular society, the absence of a shared religious moral framework can lead to moral relativism, where values become subjective and situational. Without a common ethical anchor, societies may struggle to define right and wrong, potentially leading to increased ethical ambiguity or conflict, um, which is what we're seeing. Issues like bioethics, such as like debates over euthanasia or genetic engineering, can become contentious when there's no agreed upon moral standard, leaving decisions to individual preferences of of unilateral calculations. You know, in Christianity, we believe in life. We believe that birth begins at conception. We believe that you live and try to survive and live a good life until your number's drawn, and you proceed on to the next world. You know, another thing is what religion provides in the United States, particularly since the majority are Christians, is a cultural identity and a loss of um, Christianity, and the society going more towards secularism. Religion has long been a key component of cultural heritage, shaping traditions like art. Look at any piece of artwork at any museum. It's photos of Jesus and Mary and the you know the disciples. I mean, the Sistine Chapel, some of the greatest paintings of all time. But literature, community life. You know, but secularism, by prioritizing neutrality, may inadvertently marginalize those religious roots, uh, leading to a loss of cultural identity, is what I'm trying to say. When religious practices and symbols are removed from public spaces, communities may feel disconnected from their historical and cultural narratives. It can create like a rootlessness, particularly um, w- in a society where religion has been like a unifying force. You know, we're seeing this a lot in Europe right now. Europe is being completely destroyed by this move um, to bring in conflicting religion that has now completely invaded the government in Great Britain, and soon, the religion of Islam is going to have access to nuclear weapons. Secularism, it weakens community bonds. Religious institutions often serve as community hubs. Back in the day, we didn't have welfare. We didn't have food stamps. We had the church. We had each other. We had fundraisers. We didn't need the government. These community centers would foster social cohesion with people who had shared beliefs and rituals and charitable activities. Secularism emphasize an individual autonomy, which undermines uh, those communal structures. Without religious institutions, people feel isolated or lack the support networks that churches or even mosques or temples provide. Secular alternatives like civic organizations may not always fill this gap effectively, which we see. You have your moose lodges, but there's no moral teachings. There's no morality teachings. There's no unified belief system. You know, Secularism also leads to alternative ideologies. When religion is sidelined, other ideologies, sometimes less tolerant or more divisive, can fill the void. Secularism does not inherently promote harmony either. Just because you're secular doesn't mean your intention is to do good in the world. In Christianity, our intention is to do good in the world. Secularism just simply creates a neutral space that can be occupied by competing worldviews. Without moderating influence of religious values, ideologies like consumerism, nationalism, or political extremism can dominate, potentially leading to materialism, division, or even authoritarianism, which we've seen dramatically on the left. Um, Secularism, man, if you're completely secular, what's your personal meaning? What is your why? Why are you here on this earth? Um, Religion provides individuals with a sense of purpose, answering existential questions about life, suffering, and death. Secularism, by focus on the material and rationale, may leave some people struggling to find meaning. I mean, if the world exists by chance, if the world exists for no reason, then you have no purpose, then you have no meaning in life. Therefore, you don't have a reason to benefit society. Without a transcendent framework, individuals face existential crisis, turn to fleeting sources of fulfillment, drugs, there's entertainment, instant gratification, which may not provide lasting satisfaction, which just downs society more and more. We have a lot of rising mental health issues in in the United States, which has effectively become a secular society, and they've been linked to a lack of purpose or community, with a lot of studies suggesting that religious involvement can correlate with lower rates of depression and anxiety. The the notion that secularism is good is a false narrative. Jordan, dude, what's up, dude? Hey, Michelle, welcome on. Um, but the United States is finally turning back to its roots, and I think that's what we're seeing. The issue that we're having is we have to hold on to it. You know, um, Trump is doing a lot of things that I like, and he's doing some things that I definitely don't like. And that's okay. You're not always going to agree with your leadership. You're not. Um, Human beings are flawed. Human beings have serious emotions, and that's why we have so many checks and balances in our system. Um, to prevent complete and utter tyranny. But the loss of Judeo-Christian values in America is what has led to such destruction and mass decay of our society that there's there's just death and destruction everywhere. And the left is just, I mean, they're just desperate at this point. The left is trying to tie Donald Trump to the Epstein files. It's not going to happen. I mean, they just need to get away from it. Yes, Michelle, the church definitely did a lot back in the day. They still do, but just the whole community is not involved. Back in the day, if you didn't go to church, you were pretty pretty ostracized by the community. But the left is trying to tell everybody that Donald Trump is a pedophile. Donald Trump is Epstein's friend. We know that he was Epstein's friend. Okay, it's obvious that he was Epstein's friend. There's also a lot of things um, that we didn't know. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, just came out and said that Trump was an FBI informant. that tried to help take down Jeffrey Epstein. Do I believe he was an official FBI informant? No. But I do believe that he did speak to the FBI about Jeffrey Epstein when they were investigating him. Of course he did. He helped with the original investigation in Mar-a-Lago. He kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago and made it permanent that he can never come back. And he worked with the Palm Beach Police Department to have him arrested. And now the left is trying to bring up this stupid letter that Donald Trump, I guess, wrote a birthday wish to Jeffrey Epstein, which is like a naked woman. There must be more to life than having everything, Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Yes, we do, come to think of it. It's this letter that he wrote him that he drew kind of like a naked chick on and then signed. I mean, I don't know. I've drawn a couple of naked chicks in my day and shared them with people. They just didn't turn out to be pedophiles, I guess. So there's nothing there with this stupid frickin' Epstein file thing and Trump. It's there. There's nothing there. There's never going to be anything there. It's a liberal wet dream trying to distract from what what is going on and the good things that Donald Trump is doing. The left now all of a sudden cares about due process when it comes to narco terrorists bringing drugs into the country, and these people have been labeled as domestic terrorists by the um, by the Trump administration, and that means it's the same thing as them bombing ISIS. They're allowed to, but let me pull this up here. They're also giving them crap about this. Watch what he says here.
There's no crime. They said crime's down 87%. I said, no. It's more than 87%. Virtually nothing. And much lesser things that take place in the home they call crime. They'll do anything they can to find something. If a man has a little fight with the wife, they say this was a crime, see? So now I can't claim 100%. There's no crime.
Of course, the left is rearing at this comment. They're freaking losing their minds. They're going insane about it. They're talking about, oh, domestic violence. You don't think domestic violence is a crime? Listen, I'll tell you this right now. From somebody who's been the victim of false allegations of abuse and somebody who was a police officer who dealt with domestic violence calls on a daily basis, any police officer would tell you 9 times out of 10, the situation is stupid and a crime was never committed. 9 times out of 10, one party is making a false allegation against the other party. And there was no crime, but they act like it was, like we talked about repeatedly on the show, for statistics and funding. The more crime an area has, the more officers they get, the more money the department gets, then the more money the cops eventually make. Michelle, the left thinks they are innocent. They need a history lesson. The left was no different. Yeah, I would argue that the left is way worse. Hey, JD, welcome on, buddy. Good to see you, man. I love that you guys are here every night. But yeah, of course. I mean, that's they're trying to turn this into, oh, well, he says domestic violence isn't a crime. Well, most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's somebody who's bitter, who's trying to blame the other person and trying to get the other person put in jail because they're mad at them. The world has absolutely gone insane. But in other news, in Charlotte, North Carolina, a young Ukrainian girl, a refugee, somebody who's supposed to be beyond reproach, with the left side of the aisle, sat down on a train or a bus or some sort of public transportation. I have the video. And this dude just stabs her in the neck and kills her. No reason, no excuse, no no explanation. He just kills her. And this is a guy who has been in and out of jail his whole life, and is still out of jail for reasons that I can't possibly discern. Multiple armed robberies, assault charges, and this dude is not spending the rest of his life in prison. Here she is. Escaped Ukraine, Kiev, where the war is, to live in the United States. She just sits down. And he just, out of nowhere, random attack, decides to stab her in the neck and kill her. And of course, the media is nowhere to be found. The media is nowhere to be found. You would think that this would be a story 100 times bigger than George Floyd. But it's not. It's not. The media doesn't care. And they don't care because the assailant is black and the victim is white. So they don't want to reinforce stereotypes. But if they just reported the story, stereotypes would reinforce themselves. JD, I had to show my wife this video to remind her back to the wall and head on a swivel at all times. Watch who is coming up behind you in the grocery house. Yeah, you never know, man. You never know what's going to happen. And this is why I tell all of you guys, buy a gun. You have your God-given right to a gun. Carry it. And when somebody tries to hurt you, you kill them. Simple as that, man. So you just push a button and they die. You have every right to do that. Don't be a victim. Don't be a sheep. Be a wolf. And be ready. So the legacy media is nowhere on this story. I mean, nobody's even reporting it. Here is Fox News, because they're some of the only people talking about it.
Now, why would that be? Why would one story demand 100 articles and another story 0 articles? And it's because the media is more interested in the all capitals story, the narrative, than the facts or the truth. Take a look at the difference here. I want to show you the actual truth when it comes to crime. The story is about race. Race. Take a look at the black on white crimes, 385,000 in 2023. The white on black crimes, just under 118,000. You see the comparative numerical difference. But now, here's what the media actually does. They did what our camera operator just began to do a moment ago. I'm going to step out of the way. I'm going to show you literally what the media does with a camera. They zoom in on this number. This number, devoid of context. Now, why would that be? Why would one story
Talking about Daniel
demand
Penny.
100 articles?
And Daniel Penny was the dude that choked out the aggressive dude on the train that was trying to hurt people, and then they tried to put him in jail for it. Here is a statement from Donald Trump on the attack, where he said, "I have seen the horrific video of a beautiful young Ukrainian refugee who came to America to escape the vicious war in Ukraine and was innocently riding the Metro Charlotte, North Carolina, where she was brutally ambushed by a mentally deranged lunatic. The perpetrator was a well-known career criminal who had been previously arrested and released on cashless bail in January, a total of 14 times. What the hell was he doing riding the train and walking the streets? Criminals like this need to be locked up. The blood of this innocent woman can literally be seen dripping on the killer's knife. And now her blood is on the hands of the Democrats who refuse to put bad people in jail, including former disgraced governor and wannabe Senator Roy Cooper. North Carolina and every other state needs law and order. and only Republicans will deliver it. Additionally, where is the outrage from the mainstream media on this horrible tragedy? Vote for Michael Watley for United States Senate. He won't let this happen again. I mean, yeah. These are the people that Democrats let walk the streets because they say that they're victims. They say that they're victims and that these people deserve a better shake. That, here's Trump. Let me pull this up. He's talking about this incident. I mean, this is just wild, but this is stuff that happens every day. It's just not reported. That's another thing you got to remember too. The media is reporting the George Floyd incidents, the Daniel Penny incidents, these small little offset, minute incidents, and acting as if they are, the national everyday story, but it's not. Stories like this are actually almost everyday stories. Let's listen.
Who are truly, there are evil people. We're all people of religion, but there are evil people, and we have to confront that. I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to.
I agree, man. There's evil people in this world. There are demons in this world. It's a real thing, And here is CNN actually covering it. But let's hear what they have to say. I haven't watched this video.
Really, over the weekend, Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, other Trump-aligned figures succeeded in making this senseless death a symbol of big city crime. We heard President Trump asked about it yesterday when he was heading home from New York City. He didn't seem to know much about it. He said he would get briefed, and then today, Trump did know all about it. That's exactly what has happened here. This story has trickled up from local news to social media and now to the president's attention. And it's being used, as you said, Brianna, as a political symbol, with MAGA media calling for more forceful punishments and more incarceration. I have to say, some of the replies to Musk, some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a.
What about him? Is he not racist for just killing a white girl? What's the motive? What was the motive in this? Because he sat in front of her and she was white? There, dickhead? Is that the motive? Is that it? Maybe he was racist.
White woman. The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping. But there are also legitimate questions about this so-called career criminal, someone who had been a repeat offender. And those questions, I hope they're not lost amid all of the cesspool kind of comments on social media.
Oh, shut up. You don't even make any sense. Excuse me. But the crime is terrible in Democrat cities. Crime is horrible in Democratic cities because they don't do anything to stop the crime. They like to pretend that, oh my God, these are victims of poverty. I don't give a shit what happened to you in your life. You don't have the right to go and just stab somebody on a train because you had a bad childhood. That's not how this works. This individual, I mean, he'll definitely be in jail for life now, or maybe not. Who knows? He could be out on bail in a couple of days. But stuff like that happened in big cities all the time. I was born and raised in New York. New York was horrible, horrible. But you couldn't even go to Times Square when I was a kid until Rudy Giuliani got on. I remember we went to Times Square and it was just lined with cardboard boxes that homeless people were living in. I mean, that's exactly what was happening. Guys, listen, don't forget to go to ryanfsamuels.com. Number one, check out our shop. I got some awesome merch that I've been working on, like hundreds of t-shirts with some pretty sick designs. Check them out. Use promo code Samuels for a discount. Hit that heart button right now. Like, share, and subscribe. And sign up for the news. So I got a news section where I'm writing articles daily now, 2 or 3 articles a day of what's going on. Be the first to know. Get an alert on your phone. Sign up. If you go to ryanfsamuels.com/news, you can sign up for that. But Donald Trump taking over DC was great. We're going to do an episode on Donald Trump when he does take over Chicago, because it's going to be hard for him to do. I think he'll do it anyway, but there is definitely some legal issues that he's going to face, particularly a law called posse comitatus, which is where you cannot use federal troops against citizens of the United States. But there are loopholes like the National Guard, who should not exist, by the way. But I'm happy to see a shift in the United States. I'm happy to see that Donald Trump is protecting religious freedom in schools. I am, happy to see that we are moving in the right direction. But thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you guys are all that are watching live, make sure you go on the podcast. If you got Apple, Spotify, whatever, go on there, follow it, download the podcast. Every episode you can turn on to automatic downloads. I love you all. I thank you for your support. My family thanks you. I'm on the road, but I'm still here trying to report the best that I can. And